Hey, council members, this is Leigh and Haun bringing you my update, my PC update for the March meeting. I'm going to attempt to share my screen and view notes. So give me just a second. There is my full screen. Great. And it gave me my presenter view, which is what I needed so I can see the notes. So um, like this first slide, this is my buckets that I'll go over. So policy advocacy projects, self-advocacy, and relationship building. I'm going to dive right into it because I make these way too long usually. So the first is policy advocacy, and there's a screenshot from one of my favorite TV shows, Friends, on there. And if you're a Friends fan, you will get this, but if not, you can tell on the screen it says pivot. So that has been the name of the game with policy advocacy, with everything going on a federal and state level with administration changes. What we thought January and the start of session was going to look like just completely went a different direction. So just keeping on here, key to that being able to pivot has been having Nicole on as a policy fellow. She has been really great in helping us pay attention to hearings and watch things as we try to work on both the federal and the state level. She's been providing us with updates, monitoring hearings, and she's been in real time helping with some legislator communications, which has been great. So as I'm in the Capitol, working with legislators, if they have a question, I've been able to text Nicole and like we immediately have been getting that information to legislators, which has been really valuable. So just to recap, this is a slide I'm keeping in here just about the makeup of the 2025 legislative session. I'm not going to read this slide, but it has the makeup, and what you need to know really is that there's just a ton of new people, and that continues to be kind of a struggle and things that all the advocacy groups are working on, that advocacy and education. Just a reminder, we established our 2025 priorities. These are what I've been sharing with legislators to both educate them on the council, and if I'm speaking with them about a very specific issue that maybe they're on that committee or they have legislation around, I'm able to kind of, point towards these things and have that as a leave behind. The next thing is that, and I can't see my notes, hang on a second. Um, so something going on in the Missouri legislature, so this is the pivot that's needed, is there's like a perfect storm coming. That's why I've got a little graphic of a storm cloud. And this is what, again, the name of the game is pivot. And there's just a lot of noise and there's a lot of, um, both on the federal and the state level, just like a coming together of really damaging policy decisions that have taken precedence over how we are advocating. So the perfect storm right now with the legislature is there's a financial cliff, which I'll talk about in just a second. Tax cuts are being considered and moving pretty quickly, both for income tax and capital gains tax. I'm looking at that. I think I spelled capital wrong. And then obviously the federal proposed Medicaid cuts. So we can't afford to add to budget challenges right now. So with the federal Medicaid potential cuts is creating a ton of uncertainty, right? We're still working through that on the congressional progress or process, and they're considering multiple changes to Medicaid and SNAP. So with capital gains taxes, 92% of the impact of the bill goes to the wealthiest Missourians and 300 million, and it will be the loss of 300 million annually in general revenue. And so that budget cliff, the financial cliff that we're talking about, is since 2014. So lawmakers have enacted tax cuts that, when they're fully implemented, will reduce state general revenue by over $3 billion with a B a year. That's about 20% of the general revenue budget. Eliminating the income tax would wipe out 63% of state general revenue dollars. Missouri could, this is the stat that I find most compelling. Missouri could completely eliminate all of general revenue funding for local schools, public colleges, childcare, mental health, and senior services, and it still wouldn't be enough to balance the budget if these cuts go through. So these cuts are going to be deeply harmful. And so when I say that we are focusing a lot of advocacy around that, obviously that's a huge education piece. So while we have council legislative priorities that are important, like none of them are going to be possible if we're not linking arms with all the advocates in the Capitol and sharing this information. So the positive is the relationships that we've built over the last couple years have been really great because we're all coming around these messaging points. Little touch on federal advocacy. So Senator Schmidt, who the council has a great relationship with, reintroduced his Enable Act. This is just going to make permanent some of the rules, or what we call provisions, that are in the Enable Act. And so I listed some of those on the slide. Also, we're starting to build a relationship with Senator Josh Hawley. We've met with him when we're in DC, but don't have as strong of a relationship as we do with Senator Schmidt, which is fine. It's something that we're going to grow. So actually today I just got off the call, but in partnership with our national organization, we arranged a call with Senator Schmidt's staff. We were sharing with him specifically the harm that would come to Missourians if the proposed Medicaid cuts on the federal level go through or are as bad as or as deep as what they're saying. And so this is a really great call, and the strategy with having that with Senator Hawley and his staff is that he has gone in the press saying that he's really concerned about Medicaid cuts. And so we wanted to drive home that message and share experiences with him and the impact it would have. Also, just on a federal advocacy front, again, name of the game was pivot. There was a lot of interesting things coming down in January and February, and quite frankly, still in March. And so we're still keeping an eye on those things, but we really quickly pulled together what we call an ROI, or return on investment document of the council specifically. And so we prepared this document and we shared it with our senators. And it's a piece that I will be sharing with council members and you'll see at the end, as I encourage you to meet with your congressional members, both in the House and the Senate. It's just, I'm kind of just using it as another document. We've got our nice legislative leave behind, but this is a very technical document that will speak to some of those staffers or legislators that want to kind of see numbers and what outcomes are. So that document is something that we've created this past quarter. Just to follow up, the council engaged in a process to submit open comment on the Department of Labor ruling on 14C certificates. We submitted this on January 17th, along with over 17,000 other comments. I haven't heard updates yet. I know that the federal departments are in flux right now, and I think once appointments are made and things like that, this will hopefully kind of find its center and move on. So what's next for advocacy is so many things, but I just want you to know on our radar, and we're going to hear some updates in the council meeting on Section 504 of the Rehab Act. And so you'll get some information on that, but just know that we're actually working with the Attorney General's office and their policy staff on some advocacy around this and getting some clarity. Clarity is the name of the game on that one. The supplemental budget 2025, I have this in here because it passed this week. What the good news is that is going to eliminate the current wait list, or that's what they're saying this budget will do. So I know the department is working hard to now implement the supplemental budget has been passed. Emerging issues, I'm keeping that on there. It should be in like giant font because that again is the name of the game. So we're, a lot of the budgetary issues and proposed tax cuts and things like that are going to be really important to a lot of the council's priorities. So I'm watching those. Also, just the recent changes this week of the uncertainty with the Department of Education on a federal level. Again, with everything happening so quickly and I know we're all tired of the word, but unprecedented way, it's trying to get factual information and application is challenging, but just know that we're working behind the scenes to make sure we have what we need to engage the council in important work, and then continued engagement in legislative priorities. Just a quick update, storytelling project is off the ground. She is working on gathering storytellers. There is a survey to collect potential storytellers. Remember, we need one in every county. That's 114 people. And so I'm going to be sharing and working with Anna to have council members help us find people in all 114 counties. And then she's also applied to be a speaker, Real Voices, Real Choices, which is in August, which will be a great recruiting spot for those stories. In self-advocacy, obviously, Disability Rights Day 2025 was great. It was on Wednesday, February 26th. This is a photo of Governor Kehoe just shooting the breeze with Mike Cross. He has been our MC for DRLD for, I think, 3 years. He's a self-advocate in St. Louis. He works in a school. He's a poet. He's amazing. And he definitely palled up to Governor Kehoe, who spoke at the beginning of the rally. Just sharing a few pictures. I thought these were incredible. These were participants from many different groups in DRLD, and I just think it's a great visual of advocacy and power in the Capitol. And so we're still collecting those survey results and analyzing them. It's always a challenge. I think that OA estimated we had over 600 people at the Capitol this year, which is incredible. And then we typically get, right at 80, 70 survey responses. So we're still working to try to get those responses. But overall, we're hearing that people met with their legislators, and we saw a lot more of it. The committee agreed that it seemed that there were a lot more meetings with legislators. And so we're glad to see that growth. Just want to continue. I keep this slide in here. Relationship building is just absolutely vital to the council's work, and we're seeing a lot of fruits of that growth. In the call that we just had a little while ago with Senator Hawley's office, we brought together a lot of the partners that we've been building relationships with over the past few years. The Disability Policy Coalition, that's a group that we convene that is just kind of disability policy focused. We get together every other Monday, do a right hand knows what the left is doing, and kind of support each other or figure out what's going on and how we can best help each other. Missouri Budget Project is a huge ally in the legislature, especially given all the budgetary concerns and those tax concerns I was telling you about. MODE, Missouri Disability Empowerment, they typically work, or they have worked in the education space. So they do a lot of IEP advocacy and parental consent and things like that. And so we've been able to provide them with information and education that will remove barriers for kids with disabilities in school. Missouri Foundation for Health continues to be a key partner. Again, nonpartisan organization that provides really great information for us. And then Office of Administration, there was a changeover in staff, but as luck would have it, I ran into the architects that were walking around the Capitol the other day. And I said, "What are you doing?" And they'll go, "Oh, actually, we're doing an assessment because we need to make accessibility improvements." And I was like, "Oh, that's great. Here's my card." So I'm hoping to connect, and I've offered that we want to re-engage in that conversation because there's some improvements that still need to be made. And then finally, just for my council feedback question, the weeks of April 13th and April 20th are congressional recess, which means our federal lawmakers are in recess. I've been told that some of them are going to go on like trade missions or for like abroad trips, or they might be going somewhere else, but there's also a likelihood that somewhere in those 2 weeks that they're going to be in district. And so I would like to mobilize council members to reach out to their members of Congress. And so that is something that I'm going to be touching base with each of you about and supporting you in doing. They will likely be in district. If not, we can meet with staff. But again, we want to just share the work of the council. And right now, we really want to focus on Medicaid advocacy. That is all. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you all in about a week.